My name is Jonathan Smith, and for the last 18 years, I've had the privilege of serving as a local church pastor here. And last week, I shared with my church that I'm transitioning away from being a full-time paid pastor into something altogether different. And from the very first moment I considered this to the opportunity that I now have in front of me, this is the story of where I've been, how I got here, and where I'm going.
Dad, look out.
I'm transitioning. I will no longer be on staff as a paid full-time pastor at Redeemer Church of Arlington as of the end of 2019. Just a short time ago here in this space right here, in fact, I was sitting in that chair right there, I shared the same announcement with the staff and with the leadership team here at Redeemer, that after 10 years of prayerful consideration, of relentless seeking of counsel, the involvement of family and friends and leaders and many others, I feel compelled and released to take this next step into this new venture and move and transition from being a paid pastor to a non-paid pastor and into the for-profit business world. I'm 41 years old and I'm an insanely happy husband, a father to 3 incredible and amazing kids. And I count it one of the greatest joys, honors, and privileges of my life to have been a pastor for the last 18 years. I couldn't be more excited for what lies ahead in this next chapter of my life. Let's go to my house so I can tell you some more. So it's the spring of 2011, and we were in our second year of building the ministry at the University of Maryland, Go Terps, when a few of my friends and mentors came to me and said, "Hey John, have you ever thought about going into the business world full time and continuing to serve as a pastor, but to do so on a non-paid basis? You seem to have a knack for business development. You're great with people. You understand how to influence them very, very well. We think that not only is there a great need for this kind of thing here locally, but there's even a greater need globally, and we think you should consider this as an option." Okay. 9 months later, I would find myself driving a large van to Louisville, Kentucky with 9 crazy college students to a conference. And it was a conference which, to my surprise, would feature individuals that were doing this very thing, and yet I didn't know that this was going to occur. And so I'm at the conference and I'm hearing numerous stories about individuals who were building businesses both here locally and somewhere else globally. And then in addition to that, they were serving as pastors in a non-paid way at their churches, and they were making a huge and massive impact. And when I heard one story after the next and was able to connect that with the conversation that I just had, I had this moment of realization that this is exactly what I believe that I'm supposed to do. And this is what I felt like I was supposed to do with the one life that I have in order to make the maximum contribution and the biggest impact for the good of other people.
We didn't urge you to come to this conference to make life easy for you. We urge you to come to make your life count.
There was just one problem. I had been a pastor for 13 or 14 years, and now I'm thinking about building a business. There was something that just didn't fit.
Hold up. Wait a minute.
Everything you said they already knew, more or less.
And so I left the conference. I drove those 9 crazy college students home. And when I got home, I did one above many things, and that was I got a pen and I got a journal and I started to think with a pen. And so I wrote one idea after the next of how I could possibly bring value into the marketplace and build a business so that eventually I could have that as my main economic engine while at the same time serving as a pastor in a non-paid basis. And one idea after the next all had the same outcome: failure. One idea after the next idea was created for one place, and that place was the trash can, and the trash can was very full. And so it's the spring of 2016 now, and I'm writing in that same journal. And I remember a day where I wrote an idea, and this idea just felt different. And it felt different for a number of reasons. It felt different for a number of reasons because after doing a lot of thinking and praying and asking wise people and individuals that had done this idea at a very high and successful level, I thought this actually could be it. That idea was real estate. You see, after thinking about this for a number of months and having a number of different conversations, I came to the realization that real estate, not only from a business development standpoint, but also from a wealth building vehicle, was a highly leverageable business that not only could enable me to build a great business that made a great impact and served a great need locally and possibly globally, but it also was a leverageable business that could give me the time that I wanted and the time that I was praying for, such that I could serve as a pastor in a non-paid way. In addition to that, I then saw how the one craft that I've been working on for 18 years now as a pastor, namely this craft, this skill of learning how to influence people so that they believe, they think, they do, and they say certain things, all that lead to them flourishing and not to their demise, all seem to come in and fit really well. And for the first time in almost a decade, it felt like I was onto something, like I was getting closer to this hunger, this vision, this desire, this longing that had been there for almost a decade. And it was really exciting. And so in 2017, a few months later, I would have an interaction with a friend of mine that would change the trajectory of the foreseeable future for me in a dramatic way. After sharing with him this hunger, this desire, this leaning towards real estate, and where I was hoping and praying that it would eventually take me and enable me to do, he said to me, you know what? There's a good friend of mine whose name is Chris Craddock, and you both share some uncommon commonalities. You have a similar vision and you're going in similar places. Plus, he's done very well in the real estate business. I think it actually might be mutually beneficial for both of you to connect. I'm going to give you his contact information so that you can reach out to him. How do you feel about that? I felt great. And please give me that contact information. And so I get Chris's email and I send Chris an email and it says, hey Chris, a mutual friend of ours, Paul, encouraged me to reach out to you. He said that we both have some uncommon commonalities and that there could be a mutually beneficial relationship. A short time later, I got a response from Chris. What do you remember first after we agreed that, hey man, let's run together? What's the next memory that you have of you and I working together?
Yeah, so when we started working together, and we decided we were gonna kind of build some stuff out together. The thing that I really loved and respected about John was he was always asking questions. The humility in that, but also the strength and going after what he was doing and not afraid to go after really big goals.
And so I started a side hustle, a real estate side hustle. And after sometimes long and grueling days of pastoral ministry, I'd come home at 4:30 p.m. and I would do the same thing. One thing and one thing only. I made cold calls. I made a lot of cold calls. And then I made some more cold calls. And then more cold calls and more cold calls. A lot more cold calls. And I learned a lot of things during this time. I'm not just making cold calls, but a whole host of other things in the real estate space. Number one, I learned how to handle the phone, and I learned how to not care about being rejected. I also learned how to best serve clients that were considering selling their house. And so I would shadow Chris on meetings that he would have with clients that were carefully considering whether Chris was the best fit to help them with the sale of their house. Not only that, but I would go on appointments with Chris where the other side was happening, where he was meeting with clients and helping them consider what they were looking at in terms of buying a new home, and all the questions to ask, and all of the ways in which we could provide stellar service to clients and people and friends and family that were wanting to find their next home. Not only that, I learned about real estate investing. I learned about a whole mess of things by doing one thing, and that was shadowing Chris and asking Chris, I'm sure annoying Chris, with one question after the next. Whatever time he would give me, I would take, and whenever we had that time, I would ask every possible question that I had. I just wanted to learn everything I possibly could. And so we kept building and we kept running and we kept hustling. And Chris came to me one day and said, hey man, have you ever thought about or heard about serving clients in a particular niche called probate? I never heard of probate, but after looking into probate and researching probate, I realized this is a perfect fit. Not only am I dealing with and serving and helping people who are in an hour of need, many who are grieving and sorrowful and seeking to make that sorrow and make that grief less difficult and less heavy and less burdensome, but it also was a tremendous need and a tremendous opportunity here locally. And so I began building out a probate business as an arm underneath this team that I was a part of. And so I became a certified probate specialist. I became a licensed Virginia realtor. I started the area's leading probate podcast called Probate Navigated. I began collaborating and establishing relationships with other professionals in this same field. I began to build a team so that we could provide greater service to a greater number of clients, and we kept building and we kept pivoting and we kept learning, all on the side, by the way. And it just seemed like it was a fit. Not only was I able to serve clients who were going through probate, but I was able to serve family and friends with their other real estate needs, and it just seemed like it was working. And this vision, this dream that I had been writing dreams and writing thoughts about in the journal, everything just started to click. And so a couple of months later, Chris came to me. We started to have a conversation about a possible transition. I started involving all of the appropriate people. I started talking with the leaders at Redeemer Church of Arlington about this as a possibility, and me feeling the lean and being compelled towards this end. I involved mentors who had been there and done that. I involved family, I involved friends, all out of a desire to ensure that this just was a good fit, not only for Redeemer Church of Arlington, but for the Redux Group and for me personally and my family. And after multiple conversations that I couldn't count, an hour spent having this one conversation, it all seemed to be pointing to a go. This past January, I had a conversation with Chris, and for the first time in over a year and a half, after starting this side hustle and testing, and then going from testing to then pivoting and mastering this, I felt released to go. Not only did I believe that the assignment that I was given at the Redeemer Church of Arlington was coming to a close, but I felt the blessing from Redeemer And I also felt the blessing from the Redux group. And so Chris and I began to talk about what that could look like. I began involving the leaders at Redeemer Church of Arlington until it became clear for all involved that this, in fact, was the next step, that was the best step to take. So, what's next? Well, over the next 6 months, one of my primary goals is to do every single thing that I can to ensure that this transition goes as well as possible for Redeemer, and that Redeemer is set up to bear the most amount of fruit in this next chapter of her life. In addition to that, I'm going to continue to build out this real estate business that I've had the joy and privilege to build over the last year and a half, almost 2 years. I'll continue serving clients in Virginia and in Maryland, both with their probate needs and with any buy and sell needs, and I couldn't be more excited about it. I think 2019 and 2020 is going to be one of the best moments of my life, and I am thrilled. Oh, and by the way, you really got to come check out Redeemer Church of Arlington. These are some amazing people and an amazing church, and I think you dig it. So come check us out. Oh, and one last thing, you really got to check out the Redux group. This team is absolutely crushing it. And if you have any questions, any real estate needs or desires, or anything for that matter in Virginia, Maryland, DC, or anywhere else, we would be happy and honored to serve you. All you got to do is click right here below the video to see contact information in the show notes. And if we are able to connect, I look forward to speaking with you soon.